we do 3 and 3, you know, it's a very basic. There's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 3 the other direction. So you can set those that way. Also in the attribute editor, we have the shading group, which we can get into later. But basically, you know, we're applying things and they're just gray. They don't have any color. And here you can set the shader. I mean, there's the default shader applied, and a little later I'll get on to using additional shaders. But so you can edit this or make your own one. You could do like a blend would be shiny. Anyways, I wanted to cover that. Up here we have your shelves, and we have this thing where we can switch and watch the top really closely. Besides these ones right here, they'll all change, and there are things that you can't access through this. So if you want polygons, you'll have to switch to the polygon menu. And that's why shelves are pretty nice, because, well, there's all these, and it has many of the shelf tools, and you can go through, and these align with these ones right here. So trying to look, see if so these are the same, but they're just much quicker to access, and you don't have to go up to a menu, and you don't have to go and change if you're working with something else. But what's really nice is you can customize your own shelves, and I'll show you how to do that. So this has things from all different menus. You know, it has things on fluid containers, which I use a lot. It's got just creating your basic shapes, and extrusion I put up here. I use that all the time, and I'll talk in a second about what extrusion is. So you can create a new shelf, and if you're not seeing the shelf, what you can do is probably in your display. Yeah, make sure your shelf is checked. It'll be there. So we have this brand new shelf. Well, how do we add something to it? Well, let me see. Extrude. We'll definitely want that all the time. So what you do, you go over it, and then you hold down Control and Shift at the same time, and then boom, it is in our list. And you know, we can do Insert Edge Loop tool. That's another very useful one. Control and Shift, and boom. And if we don't want something, we can middle mouse over it and drag it to the trash. And it's that simple. And I'll show you how to do an extrude, because that's really how you model something in Maya, is through extrusions. Now, I could show you what you want to get really used to is right clicking over things. Once I hold it down, I have these menus, and you can take some getting used to, but you can choose all these options from those menus. So right now we're in object mode, and this button up here shows we're in object mode, and this is edit mode, but we haven't really specified what edit mode we want. But now we're in edit, or object, and every time we change something, we're editing now. Anyways, go back to object mode. So what you want to look at, you have edges. So these are the edges that make up your shape that you can mess with, and you can move them around. We also have vertexes, and you can move those around. And really, if you select multiple vertexes, it's really the same as grabbing this edge. You can see it reacts in the exact same way. It's also made up of faces. And then with multi, you can select, you know, you can select vertex or an edge or a face, but I often just jump into the mode that I want. Now if you're over, right now I'm clicked on this face, and if I'm right there, it has the complete tool, which I don't really want. This kind of annoyed me for a long time. It's like, no, I want to get back to object mode. I want to switch. Why is it giving me the complete tool? Well, what you want to do, go over a face, but don't select it, and then right click, and then it'll let you get back. And then UVs once you apply color and textures, you can actually texture photographs onto things. But UVs demonstrate how something is really laid out on it. But really for modeling, until you get to texturing, all you're going to be working with is vertexes, edges, and faces. And you can extrude any of these, but I find the vast majority I do is extruding edges. Now, alright, so let's try out an extrusion. Extruding faces is what you're going to do most of the time. Occasionally I do edges, like if I'm building a human character under the Create menu. Oh, really quick, I want to say these boxes let you set parameters, and so for example, you know, we can go to object mode, and over here in the attribute editor, if we go to polycube, you know, we can set these parameters after we've created it. But if you want to set something before you created it, we've got our cube, and we can set these here, and these are really the same as this, but we'll let you set them before. So if we create this one, then it's got 10 subdivisions here. And we've looked at the attribute editor, and if you click it, it'll go away. Just click it to make it come back. Also, this has settings on move. You don't really need to mess with this too much, especially if you're starting. It just affects different options, like for selecting, you know, if we want it to be a brush instead, this arrow. But really, you'll use the attribute editor quite a bit, and the option box has the same information. It just displays it in a list, which can be nice because this has all the tabs, so you know there's all the tabs to look through. Sometimes it's nice to have all of that right here, but sometimes you really want the attribute because there's sliders and it's more in depth. So really you can be using either, but we can also use this to change it, and we can type a new value, so 1, or we can click on it, then move over to this window and middle mouse to the left or right, and we're affecting it dynamically, moving it up and down or rotating it by moving the middle mouse, and we can just set this to 1, and you can also use this to make sure that you're setting it to the default state, so now it's just the way I created it, and you have to click on something for it to bring up. Also, it has the inputs over here, so you can use, this is something you want to set before you start editing, because let me just show you, it gets, so you can change the number of subdivisions over the height and the depth. Now watch, I'm just going to move one vertex out of place, and now when I try to move things, these are initial settings. As soon as I do that, it's going to, well, I guess moving one didn't completely mess it up, but it's already getting weird if I move a bunch around and then I start messing with it. Things get really messy, so you want to set those initially, but that's a really easy way to quickly affect this, and I often, when I'm starting, use this to affect the size and the number. Anyway, back to extrusion. Let me create a new polygon primitive, or let me go back to my stuff I use. These are useful things. Create this, and I can also, just if you're interested, show you very briefly. I can set the inputs for this, show you when I use edge extrusion, but mostly it's going to be face extrusion. So I'm moving to here. You can set your view, so over here I have the different views. Here's the one view. Here I have all 4 views. We have the top, and you just navigate the same way, middle mouse, left mouse. It's zoomed in pretty close, there we are. And what's nice is this has a grid set up,